Everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. I'm here with Andrew Vontz of the Choose the Hard Way podcast, always the Hard Way newsletter and One Real Voice podcast consultancy. We're back from our mini holiday hiatus. I think the rule is if the kids aren't in school, we're not recording because wow, that felt like a long time that the kids were not in school. How are you doing? And we're gonna be going through the latest and greatest cycling news, digging bottom of the barrel. We'll talk about Simon Yates. We'll talk about Wout van Aert, and then we're going to talk about some Strava KOMs. That's how desperate we are for content. But Andrew, how is your holiday? How was your break? And do you want to plug anything before we get going?
Yeah, my break it was good to spend time with the family. I completed the Abandon Your Family 10-pack, like a few hardy souls out there in the Beyond the Peloton Choose the Hard Way riding with universe. That was 10 Zwift races over a 7-day period following, of course, the Abandon Your Family 500. Spencer, I think what I found, it was confirmatory, which is when you very radically ramp up volume and intensity at the same time, you're priming yourself to become extremely sick.
But so it was 10 Strava races over how much time?
It was 10 Zwift races in 7 days, and they didn't have to be any particular length. So I did end up doing a number of Crit City and smaller races. However, if you do Zwift races, you know that every Zwift race, of course, features that shot out of the cannon 30-second start. And then, there's no easy Zwift race. That's part of why I think they're a really fantastic tool to get in shape. Probably more rational to sprinkle them throughout your training. Doing 10 and 7 days, I think it brought something special to my holidays. And then on the final day, which was New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2025, when I got on the trainer for that race, I started to feel a little something, like a twinge of something. Yeah. And then by that evening, I'm on the full professional athlete program. There's no drinking going on. I suppose, Spencer, I should do a few dedicated Instagram posts to let the world know that I don't drink any alcohol, right?
Please. I've seen so many of these over the last few days.
Yeah, I just stopped drinking alcohol probably 6+ years ago. I just kind of stopped. I didn't realize that the next step was I needed to constantly talk about it on social media.
That needed to become your personality.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyhow, we go to New Year's Eve with the kids, see the fireworks in the Rockport Harbor, it was beautiful. By the time I get home, high fever. I'm just burning up all night. It was like Midnight Express. I woke up in the morning and then I've been sick subsequently for 8 days. I've tried to get on the trainer, of course, a few times. I'll just jump on, maybe hit some sweet spot intervals. No, it's not happening. However, as you know, Spencer, big announcement today, the kickoff of the Abandon Your Family 30,000, our annual drive to climb 30,000 vertical feet in a 7-day period. That means I'm back on the trainer, hell or high water. We'll see what happens.
Well, we're glad to have you back. The 10-pack is nuts because you're basically at your VO2. You're doing VO2 intervals all the time. I would say the number one thing about VO2 intervals, I guess, have a place in everyone's training. People should be doing them. My personal experience with them is I do them. If I overdo them, I get sick, like you're saying, and I get really slow. I tend to get very slow if I do too much time in VO2. I'm a zone 2 sweet spot guy. Like that's the training I need. So yeah, I'm not shocked you got sick from this because that is a huge load on your body.
And it's funny when you look at it just from a time and zones perspective, you're not doing an insane amount of VO2 relative to the fall when I regularly was doing 16 to 20 minutes of VO2 once a week. At the same time, though, there's something about going in and out of zone. And I do think that part of the beauty of Zwift racing is part of your overall training program, especially if you can't get out to do group rides. And we did talk about this a bit following the Tour de Tucson episode. There's really nothing else that very accurately mirrors transitioning in and out of zones the way you do in a race or a hard group ride setting other than Zwift racing. So I think it has a lot of value. Equally, maybe the TSS didn't reflect the absolute load that I encountered, but boy, it really messed me up. So I have a Watts flu and I don't know what the cure is, but today it might be getting back on the bicycle.
Definitely, all TSS is not created equal.
No, it's not.
I think it's the flaw in the. I use TSS all the time. It's the flaw in the algorithm, and also, I was in Maui over the holidays doing just strictly for Strava KOM research work. It was not a fun trip. It was not fun at all. I was looking at the Haleakala KOM, trying to figure out why people that dedicate their lives to Strava are so fast, and why they do not race bikes. But it's like you could start a climb at sea level and then go up to 14,000 feet, but the TSS is not, your threshold's changing the whole time, and the TSS is not adjusting that. You know, if you ride 270 watts at 10,000 feet, that's different
Right.
than 270 watts at sea level. TSS is not taking that into account. Same thing with VO2. There's something damaging. Your body is shutting down basically when you get too much VO2, and that's not being measured in there. But Andrew, just a few quick things. Let's get through the cycling news. People have been getting feedback that the chit chat is the whole show is beating by the chit chat. I would say that's a feature, not a bug. But I was on a strange time zone, but I did get my cyclocross watching in. Did you see the Wout van Aert? I thought it was one of the best races in the last 2 years between these guys. Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel. Van Aert comes back, reels in Van der Poel. I'm thinking, man, he's going to win this race. Jonathan Kaplan's going to be proven wrong. The meanest Van Aert bully I know, Jonathan Kaplan, roasting the guy for not winning a race the night before. And no, he slips. It looks not, because Van der Poel had slipped earlier in the race. Van Aert slips. It's in the snow. Looks not bad. And then he pulls out 2 laps later, and we find out broken ankle, had surgery. Wout van Aert is cursed. Is he like, I don't think we know the timeline on the recovery. This can't be good. This cannot be ideal preparation for the classics. I have to assume probably another year goes by without a Van Aert monument win. What is he bewitched? What is happening here, Andrew?
Well, there's the larger topic of what's going on at Visma, the Simon Yates.
We'll get to that.
Retirement. I just want to highlight it right now. I feel like Visma has hit a moment similar to the Metallica bus wreck where they tragically lost bass player Cliff Burton. I feel like things are happening over there, and I'm not feeling so great about what's coming up this season. As it relates to Wout, I think we may have talked about this. I know that at some point I mentioned, gosh, if you're one of the 5 best riders in the world, then taking crashing out of the equation, just going and running around in mid-shin deep mud when you don't run that much the rest of the year. And we know Mathieu van der Poel, wow, these guys can run, 15-minute 5Ks? They can trot, right? They're hot to trot. But you get out there on these incredibly unstable surfaces, like you don't know what's in the ground. It just seems like you could be at risk of an ankle, knee, or hip injury. With Wout, when I watched that race, the primary feeling I had when I turned it on was, what was it, Chekhov who said, don't have a gun on stage unless it's going to go off by the end of the play?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that kind of vibe. And it's got to be so tough for those guys because we know they're getting paid massive appearance fees. What are we estimating, Spencer? They're probably pulling in more than €1 million over this 2-week period.
That would seem kind of high. I mean, it's all.
I think that it might be that high.
You're not paying the old tax on that, which is what's nice. You might get like a little $100K in the old suitcase handed to you before the race. Let's just say it's 6 figures, healthy 6 figures, but these guys, do they really need it? I mean, and Van der Poel's flying private between his house in Spain and these races, so he could be breaking even on this. He might not even be making money. It seems like they're doing it for fun, which my extended family always asks me when the cyclocross is on, are they having fun? Thinking, probably not.
Man,
what
that
you would
race,
consider fun.
Yeah, that race, I don't know how fun that looked. Van der Poel, I want to buy the guy some leg warmers. I mean, come on, man.
He's got Embro on. He doesn't need leg warmers.
Yeah,
that's keeping
it was
the tissue warm.
It was a leg warmer day, maybe even a base layer. My view, though, is there's the money that they make. Also, I think these guys deeply care about cyclocross, and I think they know if they don't show up, or if they show up at an event like that and their evaluation is, this is just too dangerous today, you can only imagine what the press is going to say, number one. Number two, the organizers are counting on them for gate draw and for TV rights. And this has to be the time of the year when cyclocross viewership 10x's. I just think you show up on the day, you go out on that course, somebody's getting hurt. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And
it definitely is advantageous for, I mean, they are selling these tickets out. You can't get these tickets. That's how hard they are to get.
yeah,
They're doing well financially. Cyclocross is oddly probably the healthiest part of cycling from a business perspective. They've got it figured out. You're charging ticket fees, selling beer. It's fantastic. Maybe it's just as simple as they love doing it. They care about it. You're right. Like you can tell Van Aert and Van der Poel care about it. But this does seem somewhat avoidable. Like if you described the situation and that they were racing, it would not be shocking if then you said one of these guys is going to break an ankle. Like it looks unsafe. And for both of them are key figures of their road team. Maybe these are their non-negotiables. I have to do cyclocross. You can't make me stop. But do you think it's helping their road seasons? Maybe in some way, but there are guys who don't do, Tadej Pogacar doesn't do cyclocross. He seems to have decent road season. And I'm just shocked that they continue to do this based on what you just said. It does not seem that safe. It does not seem crazy that Van Aert broke his ankle.
No, it doesn't seem crazy that he broke his ankle. It just seemed like an inevitability that at some point one of these guys would get severely injured. And I was reflecting on, so they're saying that Wout's potentially 3-month recovery. We know that there is a pin in the ankle. They're saying he can be back for Strade Bianche. Just what's going on psychologically with somebody who's Humpty Dumpty at this point and keeps falling off the wall is, I think, a big question mark. He's talked about how much these wrecks have impacted him psychologically. I do think about this from a sponsor surface area point of view. We know that every cyclist now has to become a run club leader. I'm wondering if we're going to see Mathieu van der Poel go on one of those Taco Bell 50K, you need to eat a Cholito at every stop runs. I don't know if you've seen these. It's sick. I can only imagine the aftermath, but this is a popular thing in the wacky world of ultra running, which is apparently about fast food and young people hooking up, is kind of what it seems like. But for Wout, we know that Visma has the Nike sponsorship in line with the run club leader profile. When he had this wreck, I thought, is there an opportunity here, Spencer, for a First Alert sponsorship? And First Alert, of course, is the emergency transponder that seniors can wear. Famously, I've fallen and I can't get up. Is this the opportunity for Wout?
Could be. Maybe this is all, what do they call it, an activation, a marketing activation for this? This is all
absolutely.
set up. This is why they're out there.
Yeah.
We've fallen into the trap. It is real, as you say, he's been posting. He's been going through the recovery from the knee injury. I think that was late 2024 when he crashed. 2025 was a recovery season, but also 2024 was a recovery season from his crash at the beginning of 2024. So,
well, and before that, the Tour de France time trial wreck where he lost that giant chunk out of his quad, right?
I think that was 2019, if you can believe
he's
it.
been recovering for a while. I joke that every competitive cyclist, every amateur competitive cyclist, 99% of them, if you ask them, how's it going? They're either ramping up or they're recovering from an injury or illness. So
yeah,
I think that this is great. This is the stars are just like us kind of moment for Wout, for anybody that's out there going on that Pas Normal group ride, Festive 500. Like, he is your guy.
And this is a career move. This is a business decision he made. I do think some of the recovery, and that knee injury looked terrible, but I don't know. A lot of the content is Wout van Aert sucked, and then he persevered. It's like, well, he did win. Maybe he didn't have the season that he dreamt of, but he did win 2 of the most iconic Grand Tour stages of the year in 2025 after crashing in 2024.
Yeah.
Did pretty well. But man, again, like he's got no momentum. I don't know if he ever wins another monument. This was the year where he's got to do it because he's going to be 30, 32, 33, 34. Like it starts to get tougher and tougher when you get that age. I'm speechless. I have nothing to say about it. It's bad content. But you mentioned that a tragic bus accident. But this would be same thing with Simon Yates. Let's brief everybody. Simon Yates, Giro d'Italia winner, Visma, Lease bikes. You'd say second most important GC rider, extremely important rider on that team in terms of domestique duty for Jonas Vingegaard and leading Grand Tours that Jonas is not at. You would say, I'm looking at their transfers the last few years, by far their biggest inflow transfer of the last 3 years, 4 years, perhaps 5 years. He retires suddenly. I mean, I just talked to the guy. I kind of had like a botched exchange with him in November. And I'm thinking like, that's the reason I messed him up. I said the wrong thing, but I saw him in November and then I saw him again in December at a training camp. He did not look like he was going to retire. He was at the Giro d'Italia presentation saying, I can't wait to be back. And then one day we wake up in January and he's gone. Like what? I feel like in heat where it's like Macaulay's gone. Macaulay's gone. I had coffee with him half an hour ago. That's how I felt. But Visma, so yeah, now they've lost in one fell swoop. They don't have Wout van Aert for 3 months, probably longer until he's back at full strength.
Right.
And Simon Yates is just gone. And sure, they save a little bit of money, but they don't have the time to replace him. They can't slot in another rider like that at this point. And if he was going to retire, I mean, I probably would have suggested he do this. But the weird thing is, this is not the first time this has happened to Visma. Because if you recall, it might have been, in my mind, I remember Jan 6 happening and then Dumoulin retiring. Perhaps that was different years. But it was the exact same time of year with Tom Dumoulin just at team camp, gives his schedule for the year. The next day then says, actually, psych, I'm retiring. See you guys in the douches. What is happening here, Andrew? Why did they pick this time to announce their retirement?
The superordinate question is, what period of time will elapse before Simon Yates, number 1, goes after an Ironman age group world championship, number 2, starts posting his 10K fastest time, number 3, runs a marathon and tries to go sub 220?
I mean, he might be able to do all 3 right now.
Yeah, probably.
He's only 33 years old. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Yeah.
He's in prime triathlon age. I do think it's kind of, I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing him, but Tom Dumoulin retires to pursue other goals, and then those other goals appear to be crushing marathons.
Yeah.
Maybe that is what awaits Simon Yates. I personally think it would be hard. I mean, maybe being a pro cyclist just stinks. And he went to training camp and he thought, I can't do this. And that's probably what happened. Like, I can't do this. Sorry, guys. The weird thing is, Simon Yates, you never got that vibe from him. He always seemed like he enjoyed it and he was going to be in shape forever. Never really had a lot of dips. I mean, he had some years where he wasn't at his best, but very consistent rider. And then now he's gone, but he's 33 years old. That's early to be retired. I mean, I think that would be hard with the next phase. It's like, okay, it's January. I'm 33. I'm done. And we use the word retired. These guys are not moving to like Sarasota and putting their legs up. Like they got to do something. So I think the transition is going to be tough from that.
Yeah, I think it would be brutal. And we don't know what actually happened. It was so out of left field. I don't want to speculate too much. We do know that postseason, the Yates brothers like to go deep in Ibiza, and
Maybe
I don't know what happened on the islands this year, right? I mean, we've all seen White Lotus, like I'm not sure what happened. I think that it is interesting because Dumoulin, Yates, and there's been so much talk in the press post-retirement announcement about cycling 3.0 just fries the motherboard, and nobody can sustain the level of commitment and discipline it takes to cycle and do everything from a high performance lifestyle perspective it takes to be in this sport now. And people are saying, hey, this is going to be more like gymnasts. These people are going to be coming into the sport when they're 17, 18, and then they're going to be getting spit out the other end of professional cycling at 25, 26. And I think these riders who have been on the volcano a few dozen times might just want to take a step back. And you wonder, will teams actually get a bit more value out of these riders if they ease up on the rigidity, the structure, or is that just the level of commitment that it now takes for perpetuity to be involved in this sport?
I mean, part of me wonders, it's like, this is the big leagues, this is what it takes. But, let's say you had 70% as good Simon Yates and you let him enjoy his life more. Is that more valuable? But whatever the reason for the retirement, and maybe he just think this is too much. I don't want to do this. And the team said, this is what's required. They're in a tough spot because they have not been bringing in top riders for quite a while. Simon Yates was their big. They obviously brought in Victor Campenaerts, Matthew Brennan from the development team, and those guys have been great. Matthew Brennan's a star in the making. Victor Campenaerts, very key rider, but he's not going to win a Grand Tour. Simon Yates is the first Grand Tour winning rider they've signed since probably Jonas, like Grand Tour winning level rider, whatever that means, since Jonas Vingegaard, quite a long time ago. And they've lost Primoz Roglic, they've lost Tej Benu, lost Olav Koy, lost Dylan van Baarle. Like, these are important riders. Lost Hein Udebrooks, who was supposed to be their future GC star. And now they lose Simon Yates, and they're not going to be able to replace him. The cupboard is already bare, and this starts to put them into not super team anymore territory. Obviously, they have a rider who the only rider that could even potentially challenge Tadej Pogačar. That's not nothing, but this is a huge loss. I almost can't overstate how big of a loss this is. And I just wonder if the team's been supportive publicly, if the team is thinking, hey, man, could you have told this in October when we could have signed Derek G. West? Because now we can't sign anybody. They have the money. He was probably going to make, let's say, 3 million euros this year. So I guess they don't have to spend that money. But I think they would rather have a rider on the level of Simon Yates than the money in the bank. That helps them less. So tough spot, no obvious solutions here in the short term, and they're going to have to get more aggressive in the transfer market. On that note, I don't know how you get more aggressive because holy smokes, these prices are crazy. Like, think of Derek G, think of Juan Ayuso, Remco Evenepoel. Those are massive transfer fees those teams paid. Visma is still a small business. It's Richard Pluga and a wealthy Dutch guy own the team. They're not backed by a major corporation like Lidl or Ineos or Red Bull. Like, those are big companies that can pay 10 million euro transfer fees. So I don't know. Losing Simon Yates is huge because I don't quite know how they replenish that. They've pierced the aquifer, or they're in the aquifer. They've pierced the what do they call it? The waterlands. Salt water's in now. I don't know how they fix this. This is going to be tough.
The Ugalala aquifer has been pierced, and the combines.
You know how much I heard about that growing up?
I mean, how can you not if you have?
I never hear about it anymore.
Yeah, well, people should think about the Ugalala aquifer a bit more if they enjoy the food on their tables. You mentioned the transfer season, Spencer. I started to think about, what if we had a situation where the transfer market were truly open for business all the time, as is the case in many other major sports, and we had Simon Yates exit. This is all predicated upon people having checkbooks that could carry the weight of what I'm about to describe. What if teams could be poaching or trading riders throughout the season. And something like this happens, hey, no problem. We know Jai Hindley is on a contract year. He does have a contract through the end of the year. What if Visma were able to just buy him? And I don't think that these are completely analogous levels of talent. However, in the short term, potentially solves a very challenging problem for Visma. What do you think about that?
I do love it. So just to be clear, so let's just say NBA, I just know these two transfer seasons off the top of my head, NBA and Premier League, the soccer league. You can transfer midseason, but there are regulations. It's not you can do. You can't be in the NBA finals and be like, we got a new player. Like there's a trade deadline in the NBA. You can trade from the start of the season to early February. Then there's a block where you can't trade, and then the offseason starts and you can trade or sign free agents again. Same thing in the Premier League. You can trade, you can sign players the first like month and a half of the season. Then there's a mid-season trade period where you got to get your business done. Then an off-season trade period. I do like that idea that, and actually I should look at this. I don't quite, potentially there, because I remember there was an alteration of this rule in cycling. Potentially you could go out and sign a rider from another team. I'll have to look at the rules on this, but I wish there was like, at least those are the rules. I wish there was more liquidity in the market so that you could, and you could actually trade riders instead of just signing them for cash. Like we're going to give you 3 classics guys and we're going to get back Jai Hindley because you guys can't win a one-day race to save your life. Or you would have kept Olav Koy. I mean, it would change everything. They would have kept Olav Koy thinking we're going to trade him at the beginning of the 2026 season. Potentially not as good for the riders now that I say that, but having a rider like Olav Koy where you think, well, this doesn't really fit into what we do. We're not going to take a sprinter to the Tour de France ever. So we don't need him, but we can use him to send him to a team like Red Bull and get a Jai Hindley back in return. I kind of like that idea, actually. Yeah, and that would be great if now the situation's changed. They need a rider. They've got to pick one up. Let's make a deal. Also, you'll remember this guy. You might not recognize his name. He's on Visma this year. He was just signed this offseason. Anton Schiffer. Does this name ring a bell?
Not ringing a bell.
He was in the Zwift Challenge, like the Alpecin training camp Zwift Challenge. He was the rider that tested the best that did not get selected.
Yes,
by that team. But so he's interesting. He's coming to Visma. They wanted a second pass to this guy. And I talked about this with Johan Bernil over the holidays in an episode, so I don't want to rehash myself. But I am surprised with what we just described. You know, Simon Yates is gone. Getting a new Simon Yates it's an old growth forest. Almost you can't do it. They're too expensive. I'm surprised more teams are not going after riders like Anton. Like that's quite clever from Visma to do that. Or even Cam Jones. You've got a guy doing 14-hour rides at 302 watts, zone 1. Maybe give him a call. Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. Spencer, I was on Skimo Gold, which is a podcast my friend Travis Macy does that this is going to blow your mind. It's about Skimo. Travis's co-host is on the U.S. Olympic team for the Skimo relay at the upcoming Winter Olympics. We were talking about the mechanics of the sport. I know that you and I have talked in the past about people injured out of contact sports being potential talent that could be developed to go into professional cycling. Now that's a long talent development cycle. I really think that Skimo is a sport that professional cycling, I know it's poached a few athletes from Skimo in the past, but those riders have some of the biggest VO2 maxes in the world. Like they're on par with the best Nordic athletes. And in addition to that, they have a very high degree of proprioception and skill because they have to go downhill after they've done a VO2 max effort. And I think that some of those athletes would really thrive with a bit of instruction in the World Tour peloton. The more I think about talent development, I know I've joked about this in the past, and I'm not sure that it's a business environment I actually want to operate in, but I'm like, do I go be an agent? I think that I could pluck some diamonds out of the rough and get them into the World Tour, because I think the way this is traditionally thought about is not the way it's going to be thought about in the future. And these teams it's not like it used to be. You don't have 8 years to go find a junior and then slowly nurture them. They need to perform or perish at this point.
Yeah, it's true. And what the model you're describing is kind of what Gianni Savio, the late Gianni Savio, sadly passed away, would do. He ran the Androni Giocotti. It might have been Drone Hopper at one point. I believe that's correct. I don't think I'm mixing my Italian teams up. But he would go to South America and sign Egan Bernal to a 10-year deal with the hope that Bernal would develop and then he would sell that contract to Ineos or someone like that. And that worked. That's how he financed the team. That's how he financed his life. So you could be the new Gianni Savio, just finding unpolished talents. Let's say a schema racer, the pushback from a team would be, well, this guy doesn't even race a bike. It's going to take a long time to learn how to race a bike. The thing with Cam Jones is he's already racing a bike. Like,
right.
Sure, it's not the same, but you could imagine a bridge there where Cam Jones, a former World Cup mountain biker and current gravel racer, says, okay, I could probably figure this out in a year. Like, not going to be too hard. Anton Schiffer, the rider that just went to Visma, his threshold power for an hour when they tested him at that camp, it was 6.5 watts per kilo. Like, that's pretty good. You're not going to find that everywhere. So, yeah, maybe it does make sense for a team to take a chance on him. I mean, all three of those guys from that show are fantastic. I believe all three now are on teams. Even the Italian, I forget his name, Mattea, and then his last name, but I think he's on Picnic Post NL, I think. So I guess they're all signed. But I was thinking while rewatching that, I was like, all these guys should be signed by a team because they're so talented, and it's just hard to find. The talent is the first thing, and then develop them as a rider. Maybe a lot of teams don't have that patience, but in the case of Visma, like, who knows? Like, maybe Anton Schiffer is the replacement for Simon Yates, and they're super smart, and they knew this was coming and knew it was a possibility, and that's why they signed him. But they're in a tough spot. Unclear to me why this wasn't communicated earlier. That would be my big question here. Like, if Simon Yates wanted to retire, why did he not tell the team earlier? In his statement, he said, it's something I've been thinking about for a while. If I was a team, I would say, I wish you would have told us that. We would have signed somebody else. But he's gone. I honestly can't believe it. I'm shocked. And then we just have one Yates left. Adam is now carrying the torch for the Yates. I also feel like they just turned pro, so it's very weird to me that they're retiring. This shook me to my core.
Well, there's this question of whether Adam now will lose 50% of his power. Like, will he be able to thrive in the World Tour with his twin not present in the sport? I think that's one question. And on this point of where do you find talent, given there's just not that much of it at this level of the sport, the development pipeline is a long one and people have to perform right away. Uno X, of course, taking the vast majority of the cycling talent in Norway, but given the level of athletes we have coming out of Norway across all endurance sports, I wonder how many people are not making it to Uno X who are not very well known that might need to go to another team. So I just wonder if that's an untapped area. I don't know if it's a military invasion or if we buy Norway, but there might be there might be talent there. And just to go back to the burnout issue, which keeps getting talked about ad infinitum, I have no doubt that the lifestyle of a professional cyclist is brutal. At the same time, this is what it takes to be a professional in the sport. And if someone no longer wants to take their pickaxe and go to the coalface, there are a long line of people behind them. That's just the nature of professional sports, right?
Yeah. In the past, it's not unusual for a 33-year-old Grand Tour winner just to take a step back. But normally, traditionally, Simon, they stay at the team and they collect that paycheck for 5 or 6 years. So in some ways, what he's doing is admirable because it's just the life cycle of a Grand Tour winner. You're there, you're winning, and then you're not winning. It's like a light switch gets switched, and you just can't win Grand Tours anymore. A lot of guys there's people we could just name a long list of people who were once stars, who are still professional athletes, still getting paid a lot of money, potentially annoying their teams. So this is not all negative for Visma. They don't have a guy that's checked out on a retirement deal. If Simon Yates was French, he would have gone to like Groupama FDJ for a massive contract this offseason and then stayed there for 5 years. But there's so many talented Norwegian riders. I was just on the Superflag Strava KOM. Saw a guy, Johannes Stan Mittet, and he was 12th or something on the KOM. Didn't even know about this guy. He's on decathlon. He was on Visma last year, or Visma 2 years ago, decathlon, transferred over to decathlon. They have riders, World Tour level riders falling out of like vents over there. Or I guess they don't have vents. They have thermal heated floors. But coming up from the thermal vents in the ground that they use to heat their homes, super impressive. But on the topic of your former stomping grounds, Andrew, Strava, I was in Maui over the holidays, back home visiting the old homeland, and it was interesting. I was comparing in my mind, like, how would this, if I was a pro, would I train here, or would I train in Spain where everybody seems to train now? My big takeaway was the car situation in Spain far better than I'd kind of forgotten how many cars there were zipping by you in Hawaii. Was a little rattled for the first few rides, but I took a look at the Haleakala KOM while I was there. One thing that obsessed me for quite some time. I even thought I could get it at one point. Peter Hegedal used to, Jonathan Vaughters used to have the KOM. I believe it was like 2 hours, 45 minutes, something like that, from a long time ago, the 80s or early 90s. Then Ryder Hegedal, while on Jonathan Vaughters' team, broke it, did 2 hours, 36 minutes. Then Mike Woods got it after that. And famously, Mike Woods was the first person to do it on the device or app known as Strava. Mike Woods did 2 hours, 27 minutes in 2013 when nobody knew who he was. This guy was taking KOMs on Maui like crazy. I thought, who the heck is Mike Woods? Who does this guy think he is? Well, he was pretty good. So 2 hours, 27 minutes. I thought, that's fast. That's almost 10 minutes faster than Ryder Hegedal, Grand Tour winner. That's as good as it's going to get. Then Peter Stetina comes out, does a good time. Phil Gaiman comes out, 2 hours, 23 minutes. He gets Drake Duels, the Harvard rower, Zwift employee, I believe, or maybe not anymore. Drake Duel comes back. This is earlier this month. Both of their YouTube videos are quite, if you want to do the climb, both Phil and Drake's YouTube videos are very good for learning about the climb and kind of seeing what you're in for. It's hard to describe how hard it is. You're going from tropics sea level to could be freezing at the top, like literally 30 degrees. So hard to dress for it, hard to prepare for it logistically. Drake Duel does 2 hours, 23 minutes. I mean, that is crazy. Beats it by 16 seconds, by the way. Can you imagine doing a 2.5 hour Strava segment and not getting the KOM by a few seconds? That would be emotionally crushing, but super impressive. But Drake Duel, not really a racer, just kind of rides his bike, gets Strava KOMs. I noticed the same thing on and then I looked at the Superflag KOM in Boulder, and it's a guy, Seth Hirsch, who I think is just a local guy that rides his bike. What's going on with these Strava KOMs, Andrew?
That's a great question. I think going back to this talent development conversation, there is the watts per kilogram aspect of it. And then, as we've discussed many times in the past, there's can you put out those watts per kilogram at the right moment in the right situations when you are in a fist fight with 200 other people to get to the spot where you need to be on the road. And that's a little bit different than being in a boat and pulling on an oar.
That's true. And I think Phil breaks it down a little bit in his video. Drake started racing bikes at 22, right after college. And if you start that late, it's a pretty tough road. But I think in Phil's word, if you're a Harvard graduate, you can just get a remote job for 6 figures and not race bikes. And that seems kind of nice. So why would you suffer through this? But the guy is seriously good engine. I mean, he averaged 340 watts for 2.5 hours. A lot of that over 7,000 feet. So those are serious numbers. Like that is legit. I almost don't think he realizes how good he is. You see him in his video, and he's like, oh, I was hurting here. I had been sick, but I thought, if I just like kind of tap out this pace, I'll beat Phil. So I went conservatively, so I wouldn't blow up. And if you've ridden the climb, I mean, you know how it's unbelievably hard. And he's talking about it like you and I are going out to get a KOM held by someone on a beach cruiser Also,
which we might do. We're not above that. That might be in the near future. Stay tuned.
And then the rivalry, you can tell there's quite a low or high key rivalry between Drake and Phil too. I think they chase Strava KOMs around LA against each other. But I would recommend the videos, and then you got to go back in the time machine. Ryder Hesjedal's video from his 2008 attempt is on YouTube. It's fascinating to watch over the years how our KOM obsession has evolved since the days of Ryder doing it on potentially a 45-pound felt bike. I can't believe he went that fast with that bike.
Yeah, and Drake you have to think, because of his Crimson connection, his time in the boathouse and out there sculling on the Charles, he of course can tap into the knowledge of Kristen Faulkner, who also has held the oar for the Crimson.
Yeah, and the Winklevoss twins.
Yeah.
The Winklevi. Yeah, but my son is good friends with I believe it's Cambridge or Oxford, one of the two. I know you're not supposed to mix those up. Someone that the parents were both on either Cambridge or Oxford's rowing team, and they're very familiar with the Crimson. They kind of look down though at the Crimson, at the Harvard team. That's JV. They're not in the boat race on the Thames.
Yeah, I mean, if Drake wants to make that jump to the World Tour, maybe Kristen Faulkner has some tips.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen Faulkner did jump in and win an Olympic gold medal. I don't know if that's in his future. And maybe his life is just so pleasant that he's like, why would I deal with this? I can just live a nice life, not racing bikes, and that's pretty cool. But that's a big engine to be doing that amount of power for that long. Maybe someone should take a look at this guy.
Maybe he's allergic to Ibis hotels.
Yeah, he might need the Ibis Styles hotels. And some of these hotels are not great. I would say the training camp, and you'll see, Andrew, when we do our own shadow camp next to these camps, the goal is, I haven't briefed you on this, but I would love to go book a couple rooms in one of these. So we are embedded in a team's training camp without them even knowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me, you,
that's the move.
Jonathan, Kip, just crashing a training camp, and it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, I like the concept. Tropical fruit at breakfast, omelet bar, I'm imagining.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Jonathan can bring his private Normatex for the whole group.
He'll just steal them from the team. We can't recover this guy. He's always in the Normatex.
I think maybe the move on the next group activity that we have, and we do have one coming up soon, is maybe the slowest rider of the day has to wear the Normatex out when we go get tacos.
I would like a portable battery.
We'd have to protect the feet, though. We need to figure out how do we put. Because you don't want to mess up the Normatex. How do we put some kind of shoe or sandal on the bottom? But that would be incredible.
We'll workshop this, but I do have to run. But thank you for coming back in after a long hiatus, and then we're doing. Did we even announce this? The Abandon Your Family 30,000. We're trying to climb the height of Everest in a week, starting today.
Yeah,
you can join by going through our incredibly long process of following us on Strava and then messaging us and then asking us to invite you to the challenge.
Seamless.
We'll invite you.
Yeah,
seamless.
Yeah.
I can't believe how many, and we should say a lot of people did Abandon Your Family 500. I can't believe how many people got through the process I just described and how many people accomplished it. So congrats to everybody.
Hats off.
Thank you, Andrew. And we will speak soon. Good luck and best of luck climbing Everest. We'll check back in next Friday to see how it went.